Hello everyone, welcome to week 2 of Marketing Fundamentals. Hope all of you had a good week and looking forward to a relaxing weekend. In this week's overview, I wanted to discuss or reflect on the concept of strategic planning. So, before I discuss the concept of strategic planning, let's define what is a strategy. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the concept of strategy, and some of you already know the definition of strategy, but let's try to come up with a formal definition of a strategy. The first of all, we know that a strategy refers to integrated set of actions designed to achieve organizational goals. So there are two parts into these definitions, the set of actions and the organizational goals. So what does this mean? This means that organizations actually undertake a number of activities and they allocate resources in order to achieve the goals they set. And that's what strategy is all about. It's about allocating resources and coming up with different plans in order to achieve the goals. So, what are the components of a strategic planning process? So, there are four components or four elements or four steps, I would say, of a usual strategic planning process. The four steps are obviously defining a mission statement and then setting up goals and objectives. Number 3 is setting up a business portfolio, and number 4 is defining marketing strategies and marketing programs, etc. So let's go back to the first element of the strategic planning process. So the first element of the strategic planning process actually is defining a mission statement. So, do you know what is mission statement? I'm sure all of you have come across some very good mission statements in your lifetime. But how do you define it? So, mission statement usually a statement which explains the purpose of being of an organization. So it explains why do organization exist, what do they believe in, what are their products and services, and what are their overall philosophy. So mission statements can actually it can be used to explain the overall character of the organization, but most of the mission statement is usually focused on the competitive advantage of the organization, their products, their overall philosophy, and also it focuses on their market positioning. So there's no set formula for defining a very or a mission statement. It actually depends on the individual organization, it depends on the product and services, but the overall understanding is that a good mission statement should actually reflect the strategy of the organization, it should reflect the structure of the organization, it should also reflect their product and services, and most importantly it should actually cover the values of the organization, what the organization believe in. So there are plenty of examples of good mission statements that are provided in the book, so you can go through the examples. But personally what I feel is that while setting up mission statements for your own business, this should be a reflection of what your company believes in. And usually mission statements tend to be quite detailed. Sometimes it is a paragraph, and sometimes it tends to be just 2 to 3 lines. So it varies according to the organizations, depending on their product and services, etc. Anyway, moving on from the mission statement, the next step is setting up goals and objectives. So we have said during our lecture that the goals and objectives should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be achievable, it should be realistic, and it should be time bound. So in short, it is also known as the SMART principle of setting objectives, and this is very important. So for example, if I say that The objective of our business is to achieve a profit of $25,000 by the end of financial year 2021. So that's the financial objective that I am just giving you an example of. And it perfectly makes sense, right? So you can actually, this objective is measurable, and $20,000 profit is it's not something which is unrealistic even for a small business. So it is realistic, achieve, and it is time bound as well. So I have actually allocated a time frame, so it is specific as well. So if you go through the smart principle, you will see that the example that I had given, it is specific, it is measurable, it is achievable, it is realistic, and it is time bound. But if I say that I want to achieve profit this year, do you think this particular example is measurable? Because we don't know the figure, you don't know how much profit I'm talking about, right? And it is time bound because I've said this year, but it is not specific at all, it is not measurable. And if the objectives are not measurable, that means like at the end of the year you will not be able to measure whether you have actually attained your objectives or not in a absolute quantified manner. So obviously your calculations are going to be a lot more vague, and that's why it's extremely important for the businesses to ensure that the objectives follow the SMART principle that we talked about. And when it comes to setting the objectives also can be set from number of perspective. You can set objectives from financial perspective, you can set objectives from customer perspective. For example, your objective could be achieving 100% customer satisfaction, so, or 100% delighted customers. So that is an example of customer centric objective. Or objective could be internal process perspective as well. For example, you can set objectives to ensure your employee satisfaction. So for example, to achieve 95% employee satisfaction. So that is something which is an objective from internal process perspective. Or else, like, it could also be done from an innovation perspective. For example, we want to introduce at least 2 new products in our product line this year. So that's an objective from innovation perspective or research and development perspective. So as you can see that there are various perspectives you can undertake. But once again, I'm repeating the 5 magic words: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. And that's what you have to remember while setting the objectives. So out of the 4 steps of strategic planning, we have already discussed about 2 steps. So we have talked about setting up mission statement, then also talked about setting up objectives. Now, what is the third element? The third element is obviously setting up a business portfolio, defining the business portfolio. So usually, in most cases, every organization is a collection of businesses, or it's a collection of product and services, and each products are usually represented by a specific business unit, and it is also known as strategic business unit, or we call it SBU in short. For example, if you take Google, as an example, they have got multiple products and services. For example, what is the primary product of Google? And all of you will go, okay, Google search engine and Google AdSense. So these are their main products that generates majority of the revenue for them, right? So Google AdWords and Google AdSense, as well as the search engine that all of us use, is one of their major products, and it generates majority of their revenue. So these products are known as the cash cow products, or it could be start products as well. So when it comes to the business portfolio, usually businesses divide the portfolio into 4 categories. There are start products, which is represented by high growth market and where the product is also growing. And then there are cash cow, which is basically you have got a high market share in a low growth market. That means the market is already saturated, so you cannot really grow too much, but you do have a very, very large market share. Then there are star products, which is characterized by a new product in an emerging market. And then there are dog, which is characterized by a product that are operating in a low growth. So there is no opportunities for growth, and the market there is also no opportunities growth in terms of both product and market. So it's without the diagram right in front of me, it's kind of hard for me to explain the four elements of the growth share matrix. But when it comes to the BCG, we call it BCG matrix or product portfolio matrix. Let's take the example of Google once again. So the cash cow. So cash cow refers to the product that has high market share in a low growth market. So when it comes to Google, do they have any product which is their cash cow, so that generates maximum amount of revenue, but the market has reached saturation, so that means there is just not much room for growth? In that case, so that would be their cash cow product. For example, hypothetically, I don't have the figure right in front of me. Let's just assume that Google search engines is one of their cash cow, and also let's just assume that Google AdSense and Google AdWords are their cash cow. And then we have got the star products. Star products are the products that already been accepted by the customers, and it's also rapidly growing in an emerging market. So that means it has potential for more growth in future. So in case of Google, any product can you think of? For me, maybe I can't think of Google Home. So that is something that it is growing, and obviously the market for this particular product is still growing. It is still at the growth stage, and maybe in future this will be part of all of maybe you can think of, okay, no, Amazon Alexa is better, but I think Google Home would have a substantial market share in this domain, but this particular product could be classified as one of their star product. Okay, now what are their question mark? The question mark products are which are recently launched into the market, so it needs significant investment for growth. So if it is accepted by the customers, then eventually it will become a star and cash cow, but if not, it will just go down to the dog. So the question mark product, I don't know. So what product you can think of when it comes to the product that just Google has recently introduced? Maybe we can consider such as Google Watch, or we can consider something such as Google Phone as well. They're still trying to find a foothold in the market, especially in the mobile phone market. So we can consider Google Mobile as their question mark. And then there are dog product. So the dog product is basically characterized by low market share in a low growth market. So we can think of maybe Google Glass. This particular product, obviously it was launched into the market but was not really popular among the customers, did not really materialize the promises that it made, so was not very successful in the market, and slowly I think it was phased out. So we can consider Google Glass as obviously we can consider Google Glass as a product that is at the dog stage, or that was not really successful. So this is just an example of portfolio analysis. We have done it in a very, very informal manner without any information right in front of us, but when organizations undertake, they actually do have real-time data in relation to the product growth as well as the market growth, so that they can actually plot the map and they can identify where do their product stands in. So, and you can ask me why organization need to do that. So the reason why organization need to do that in order is to identify the future investment opportunities and the current investment to maintain the current investment portfolios. For example, if you identify that the majority of your products are at the cash cow stage, but if you do not have anything in the introduction stage or growth stage, that means the cash cow stage will slowly move towards the dog stage, and then your competitive advantage will slowly recede. And that's why it's very, very important for businesses to have adequate number of product in the introduction stage as well as growth stage. And that's why you keep seeing that every time a certain Apple introduces an updated phone every year or every 2 years, Google actually comes up with new products and keep pushing it in the introduction stage or keep pushing it as a question mark. And all these innovation mechanisms are done in order to maintain the competitive advantage. So the portfolio analysis at the end of the day enables organization to monitor their current market position so that they can develop strategies for future to retain the market position. So I think I've got a little bit tangent, so I moved away from what I was talking about. But let's just revisit. So far we have talked about the 3 steps of strategic planning process. We said that obviously the first of all the planning process start with the defining the mission statement. The second one is setting up goals and objectives which should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. And number 3 is obviously organizations need to define their product portfolio. But if you are selling a single product, in that case you don't have to worry about that. So you can actually, once you set the goals and objectives, you can divert all your resources towards that single product. But to be honest, you're not going to come across any organization which actually focuses on one particular product in order to sustain in the marketplace, especially when it comes to the mid-sized businesses that tend to have several strategic business units looking after different type of products and services offered by the organization. So what is the 4th step? The 4th step is obviously developing appropriate marketing strategies in order to achieve the goals and also in order to maintain the market position and extend the market position that was identified through the portfolio analysis. So organization develop strategies related to their product, price, distribution and promotion, and also they identify various implementation and control measures in order to make sure that their plans are executed. And then they have various control measures to ensure that they can measure to what extent their plans are successful or not. So that is the 4th step in the strategic planning process. So when it comes to the 4th step, it is closely related to the marketing plan. So that is what something the additional